This is Laura Vanderkam. I'm a mother of 5, an author, journalist, and speaker.
And this is Sarah Hart-Unger. I'm a mother of 3, a practicing physician, and blogger on the side. We are 2 working parents who love our careers and our families.
Welcome to Best of Both Worlds. Here we talk about how real women manage work, family, and time for fun. From figuring out childcare to mapping out long-term career goals, we want you to get the most out of life. Welcome to Best of Both Worlds. This is Laura. This is episode 179, which is airing in early January of 2021. We are recording in 2020 still, but we're wishing our future listeners a happy new year, and happy new year to future Laura and Sarah as well. Sarah, do you have any exercise plans for the new year? I know you always set sort of exercise goals and have big, exciting new projects. How's that going for you?
I have not really. I do have an exciting announcement, which is that I've been able to procure weights that I've been trying to get all year.
Because they were all sold out. It was like jigsaw puzzles and Clorox wipes, right? Like these were the things that was like completely gone.
So I had like 15-pound weights and 20. I mean, I had ones less than that as well. And then I had 25-pound weights. But there are certain exercises where like 15 was getting kind of easy, but 25 was like, I could do half of a set.
Half of a rep, yeah.
Yeah. So I really wanted like those interval ones. And now I have 17.5s and 20s. So I feel like very excited about that. So, I mean, I'm just going to keep working on my strength stuff. I probably will keep doing the kind of Beachbody programs that I've been doing. I do kind of want to train for like a faster 5K. And now would be the season to do it, not like the spring or summer in our climate. So we'll see if I can do some kind of combo. And I think that I will do the 80-day obsession yet again this summer. I think it's a perfect use of our horrible summer weather. And I just enjoyed the challenge of it. So yeah, those are my 2021 fitness goals. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, I'm not setting anything crazy either. I just plan to keep running 4 to 5 times a week. Most days get over 10,000 steps one way or another. I keep saying I want to strength train. I'm pretty sure I don't actually want to strength train because I would have done it by now. If I truly wished to do it. I have a kettlebell and resistance bands in my office, and occasionally I pick them up. So maybe that's something I will just, try to do. As I say, 3 times a week is a habit. Maybe I'll just do it lightly 3 times a week and see how it goes. And yeah, sometimes when we say, I don't have time, it really means it's not a priority. And I think I should just accept that. Maybe acceptance will be our message of 2021.
Acceptance is actually a wonderful message.
It is. All right. Well, let's go to our guest. Well, Sarah and I are delighted to welcome Christina Shenvi to the podcast. I'll be interviewing her today. So, Christina, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thanks, Laura. I'm so excited to talk with your listeners on this podcast. Yes, I am a practicing emergency medicine physician and assistant professor at the University of North Carolina. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is helping students and also other professionals understand how to use their time better. So we share a lot of excitement about that topic, clearly. And that's one of the things I do is I coach students, and now I've started coaching faculty and teaching about time management. I also have 4 kids, so not the 5 that you have, but it's pretty awesome. I feel like is 9 kids enough to like make a soccer team or something?
Yeah,
probably
not quite, but between maybe it is. I'm getting my sports mixed up, but between the 2 of us, we have a lot of offspring.
A lot of young ones,
and a lot of interest in time management too. How old are yours?
My kids are 5, 7, 10, 11.
Okay, right. Packed in there.
Yeah.
6, at one point, they were like 6, 5, 2, and 1, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yes.
There's always think of those days and sort of, many flashbacks.
Yeah.
So, and what made you decide to, given that you have this broad interest in like time management, things like that, I mean, what brought you to medicine then as kind of your primary career?
Well, really, I've had kind of a winding path. I get really curious about things and then delve into them. So I actually did a PhD first in chemical biology and then decided I want to go to med school and then did residency and fellowship. And I've always really loved education. And so I got into the education realm in the School of Medicine and was hired on to be an academic coach to coach students. And I realized that a lot of the struggles that they were having with academics really came down to time management. And then as I delved more into that and into some of the educational psychology literature, I realized that a lot of the time management problems are really trouble managing your own mind. And that's where I feel like I can really make a difference with people.
Yeah. So, what is your job coaching students and faculty actually look like? Then, do the people get referred to you? Can they just use you as a resource? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so now I'm director of our Office of Academic Excellence, it's called. So we have about 13 of us who help students, and students can come and ask for help, or if they're not doing that well in a course, the course director might refer them to us, or if I monitor the scores, I have like giant Excel spreadsheets with all the data points. And if it looks like a student's not doing as well as they could, then I'll email them and reach out to them. And then with faculty, I've been running workshops at different institutions for faculty on time management and habit formation, willpower, how to maintain agency over your time, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. And so you do a lot of workshops and things like that, right? Are
Mhm.
any of those ever open to the public, or is
Yes,
it?
there are two upcoming in January and February that I've opened up to the public for the first time, which will be really fun. And if your listeners are interested, you can find out more information about those at www.timeforyourlife.org.
Awesome. So let's talk about your time management system here. So you have three aspects of it. You have the compass, the clock, and the key. Very good
Very
marketing
dramatic,
there. I
right?
know. I was
Always
like,
comes in threes,
oh,
always.
it comes in three, and you can see these like flashing on a screen or something, and the music plays behind. But why don't you talk a little bit about what that means, sort of broad term, and then we'll take our ad break, and then we'll delve deeper into it.
So, first, the compass. I think about this as really understanding where you want to go because you can't measure how well you're doing with your time or how well you're using your time unless you know what you want to be putting your time towards. So, the compass is making sure you're focusing on the right things, making sure you have the right things on your plate. You know, Laura, one of the problems so many people tell me they have is the too much on my plate problem. And so, you can't tell what needs to be on your plate unless you know where you want to be going. So I think about this as kind of your big picture or your big mission or vision or values. What's really important to you? So if you had 30 years to live, what would you really want to accomplish? Or what about if you had 20 years or 10 years or 5 years? What are those things that are really important to you? I kind of think about this too, like a general in, one of those war rooms, and with that map, maybe it can be a hologram map if we're thinking like Marvel comics and that kind of thing, but they're thinking about where to deploy their troops. And you would never waste troops on a battle that's not going to help you win the war. So you have to know, what is that war that I'm fighting? What is it that I want to do? And then you can figure out how to deploy your troops, which is your time and energy, to the right places.
All right, so that's our compass, and then our clock.
Yeah, so the clock is really about doing the right things well. So once you understand like what are the things that I need to do, then you can break it down to an individual day. So if I say, okay, for you, maybe writing that next book is your big thing that you need to do. So then you can break it down and say, today, what are the critical actions that I need to do? And kind of list them and then prioritize them. So it's really about strategy and then prioritization. And when you think about those things, you can think about what kind of work they are, because not all work is the same. For you, maybe writing that chapter draft is deep work that you really need to focus on and have at least an hour block of time to work on. Whereas shooting out some scheduling emails or dealing with your bills and paperwork, that's what I think of as shallow work. You really don't need your entire mental focus and you can kind of knock out things really quickly. So when I'm looking at my day from a strategy standpoint, then I think about, okay, I need to block off chunks of time for my deep work, whether that's meeting with students or that's writing a presentation or writing an article or something like that. And then my other shallow work, I can slot in between as kind of breaks from my deep work because your brain needs a break from thinking really deeply. You can only think deeply for about an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time. So one of the things I'll do is I'll put in that deep work on my calendar. And it works better if you specify what you're going to do. Because if you show up to your work or your desk and you're like, okay, well, what should I do today? Then you're less likely to really be working on those high priority actions because your mind will say, oh, well, let me just, check my email real quick, or let me just That let me just thought is always a distractor. Let me just check Instagram. Let me just check Facebook real quick. Let me just see how many likes that got on Twitter. And then all of a sudden you've lost an hour. So if you plan ahead of time what you're going to use your deep work for, then that reduces the likelihood that you're going to then go off on a tangent. So I'll put in my deep work time on my calendar, decide ahead of time what I'm going to do with it, and then take away any sort of distraction. Close down my email, my phone. I take my watch off. I have one of the Apple Watches that will tap me if I get a text. So I take that off. And then I set an alarm for 5 minutes before whatever my next meeting is, so that I don't even have to look at the clock and keep track of time. I know once my alarm goes off, I'll have 5 minutes to like reset and then jump on my next, in this case, in this day and age, Zoom meeting. So that can really help you make sure you're getting those high priority tasks done. The second part of that, of the clock, is efficiency. So, if you think about, you have all these things on your plate, how can you create more space on your plate? Well, if you shrunk each of the items, so every single thing that you do, if you do it more efficiently, then you'll have more time. When I was a med student, I almost went into surgery. I loved surgery. So I spent a lot of time doing rotations in the OR. And I remember the surgeons were always so quick and efficient with their movements. And I kind of thought, like, what's the rush? But then I realized if every single movement you do, you're 50% faster or twice as fast, then you'll finish that whole case overall in 2 hours instead of 4 hours. So those small incremental differences in just tying a knot or, connecting two pieces of whatever will add up to huge changes over the long term.
We're going to hear a little bit more about how to do daily things more efficiently in just a minute when we're back from our break.
Hey listeners, my family recently bought a new house with more bedrooms, which means we need some new mattresses. But there was a problem. I was not so excited about visiting a mattress store during a pandemic, but I also didn't want to buy a mattress online that might not be right for me. So I'm glad I found Helix Sleep. Helix has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress. They have several different models to choose from: soft, medium, firm, ones that cool you down if you sleep hot, and mattresses especially for plus-size folks. I took the Helix quiz and was matched with the Dusk model, probably because I sleep on my stomach. The mattress is great, soft but supportive, and with a baby who sometimes keeps me up at night, I want to enjoy all the sleep I can get. So if you're looking for a mattress, go to helixsleep.com/bestof, take the 2-minute sleep quiz, order the mattress you're matched to, and it comes right to your door shipped for free. No mattress store. They have a 10-year warranty and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you know what? You will. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired Magazine. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/bestof. That's helixsleep.com/bestof. Hey listeners, is anything interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? If so, BetterHelp can help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private online environment and start communicating in under 48 hours. Send a message to your counselor anytime, and you will get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if that is needed. Anything you share is, of course, completely confidential. I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/bestof. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bestof. Hey listeners, as many of you know, I will be moving soon. And as part of that, I am cleaning out my closet. That brings me to the topic of Poshmark. Poshmark is a free app where you can easily clean out your closet and sell items for cash. Just download the app using my referral code, BESTOFBOTH10, and you'll get $10 off your first purchase. There are tons of lightly used or even brand new items with tags on Poshmark, so you can shop for your next event or vacation. Shipping is so fast, and the app is so easy to use. It's also fun, because you get to practically shop for free with the money you make from sales. Listeners of Best of Both Worlds get $10 off your first purchase. Just enter the invite code BESTOFBOTH10 when you sign up. That's invite code BESTOFBOTH10. BESTOFBOTH 10.
All right, so I am back with Christina Shenvi, who is talking about her time management system that she uses to coach busy med students and faculty members. We've been talking about the compass, which is the big goals in life, figuring out where we're going. Now we're talking about the clock, which is how to be more efficient and effective in our daily schedules. So you're talking about how surgeons were very efficient with their movements. What does that look like for those of us who aren't doing surgery?
Yes. So think about it, really comes down to being aware and intentional with what you're doing. So if you're sending an email, if you're kind of dawdling with it and at the same time like looking at your phone or being distracted or watching movies, you're not really being efficient with your time. So saying, okay, for the next 10 minutes I'm going to do my emails and I'm going to just knock them out one after another, and really being efficient with that. Or anything that you're doing, just looking at your how you're spending your time and saying, am I doing this efficiently? And that means, for your deep work, to do it well, you really have to focus. I don't know if you've read Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, but he gives what he calls the deep work equation, which is that the high quality work produced equals time spent doing it times intensity of focus. So you can have either a lot of time doing something with a shallow focus or a smaller amount of time doing something with a really deep focus. And the other thing that comes into play here is we have to have a system to manage all the things we have to do. Because if you're there trying to write your chapter and then you all of a sudden are thinking, oh man, I've got to pick up diapers, or I've got to get my car checked, or I've got to pay this bill. All those thoughts are like live balls, like bouncing around in your head. And you really can't work on your deep work if you've got all these thoughts bouncing around that you're trying to carry. So you have to have a system to offload that. Whether that's, for me, what I do is I am a little old fashioned. I like my paper to-do list. I have a clipboard and, not even a digital clipboard, like an actual physical clipboard and a piece of paper. And I have different categories of my to-do items. So when something pops in my head, like I've got to do that, renewal paperwork for my job, then under my admin category, I'll write a little checkbox and I'll write that I have to do that. And if I know it, I'll write the due date. That way, that offloads it from my brain so that I can really focus on what I'm doing.
And that part of focus plays into the last of the three things. We had the compass, the clock, and now the key, which is controlling your mind. So talk about what that means.
That really is the key. Because a lot of times, we can clear our physical space, we can clear our digital space, but then how do you clear the mental space? I love David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. And one of the things he said is that most people have never experienced what it's like to think of only the thing that they're doing. And the trouble is then, those thoughts of, oh, I've got to pick up diapers or oh, I've got to get my car checked, they're relatively easy to manage. But how do we manage the thoughts that are more challenging? Like, oh, what if I write this book and nobody reads it? Or what if I publish this article and everyone hates it? Or people tweet out that it's terrible. So those kind of thoughts are much more challenging to deal with. I was working with a student one time who was saying she was struggling with her grades and her classes, and she said she just had so much trouble focusing. And so we talked about, well, are you, studying in a quiet space? Have you cleared your phone out of the room, shut down your email? She had done all that. And then I just said, sometimes it can be really hard to study when you're very anxious about failing, or when you're having thoughts of, if this doesn't go well, I'm not going to be able to be a doctor. And at that point, she just started crying, because that's where we get hung up the most often. So once you've done all the kind of tactical measures of clearing your digital space, clearing your physical space, you have to think about becoming aware of your own thoughts. A lot of times people procrastinate out of several things. Sometimes what's called self-worth preservation, because if you withhold effort, then if it doesn't go well, if your article gets rejected, then you don't feel as bad. And there's tons of data on this too, that if you withhold effort and it fails, then you don't feel as much shame. So we naturally, when we're afraid, when we're doing something that's a little outside our comfort zone, then we are tempted to withhold effort or procrastinate or kind of be disorganized or whatever it may be. So, really, the key starts with creating awareness of our thoughts. What is the thought that is keeping me from putting my whole self and my whole effort into this? Or what are the emotions that I'm avoiding by avoiding this task? So, I had a paper that I had to write, and I just kept putting it off. And finally, I realized, it's not that I couldn't make time for this, but I didn't because I didn't want to feel that self doubt that I knew I would feel, or that frustration or insecurity or boredom if it's kind of a boring piece of work. So we avoid tasks to avoid feeling those emotions. So the first step is creating awareness and then really creating space between ourselves and our thoughts. We tend to do what's called cognitive fusion, where we think a thought and we automatically believe that it's true, and we don't actually examine it. So the next step is really examining, is this a valid thought? Or is this a thought that I want to entertain? Is this a thought that's serving me? This thought of, I don't want to do this because it's so boring, or I'm just dreading doing this. That thought itself is creating the emotion of dread or of avoidance. And then learning how to kind of manage our thoughts by intentionally choosing thoughts that will allow us to take action. And this is not a quick fix by any means. This is not like a life hack, like try this once. It's kind of like exercising. You don't eat a salad once 3 years ago and then be healthy. You have to eat that salad every day and exercise, every week to be healthy. So this is the kind of thing that you learn to do as a habit. But a great place to start is just writing down those thoughts and being just radically honest with yourself. When you find yourself procrastinating or avoiding something, writing down, what is it that you're avoiding? Is it boredom? And then asking yourself, well, can I tolerate boredom to get this job done? Or if it's frustration or self-doubt, can I tolerate self-doubt in order to get this done? And then another method to overcome this is intentionally choosing new thoughts. So instead of the thought of, I really hate that I have to write this paper or study for this test or, do this thing in my job that I don't like, choosing thoughts like, I have full control over my time. Isn't it great that I get to choose everything that I do? I don't have to go to work. I choose to go to work every day. Isn't it great that I can use my creativity towards writing this paper? Or isn't it cool that I get to study the human body by studying for this exam? And those thoughts then create the feeling of self-confidence, motivation, and allow you to then move forward and get it done. So that's really the key of how to manage your own mind around this.
Yeah, it's interesting. My kids I signed them up for rock climbing classes, which are on pause now with our various COVID restrictions. But my 5-year-old is really a bit of a acrobatic monkey. And so I was quite sure he was going to love it. And he does. But on the first day, I heard him talking to the instructor, and he was a little like, that's a kind of tall wall. It was very high. And she was talking with them about, what they could do. And he came back to me later, and I said, because he kept climbing up to the top again and again and again. And I was just like, wow, you look so fearless. And he said, well, no, I was kind of scared of heights, but I'm in charge of myself.
Oh.
And, I was like, that's so true.
That's
like
so
you can
great.
be in charge of yourself and not,
Yeah.
that fear is interesting.
Yeah.
But I can still climb to the top.
Right. I can be afraid and still do it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about, how you manage your time and your day-to-day life. Because obviously you have a busy schedule with a medical practice and coaching and then your family life too. What does your sort of family responsibilities look like and how you decide those and things like that?
One of the things that's really helped in my family and my husband and I is to have a really clear idea of who does what in the house. We very much have shared expectations. Actually, he probably does more of the housework than I do, but that way we know whose job it is and we just kind of do it. So he does dishes, I do laundry, I do taxes and pay all the bills. He tends to pick up more of the kids' toys. Or as your kids get older, thinking about, well, what do the kids do? My kids are old enough now, they can, put their own laundry in the washer and dryer and pick up their rooms. And that way you don't have to negotiate each time. And the overarching idea for me about kind of clearing your mind is offloading as much as you possibly can to preserve your cognitive functioning. So, we think we can think about a lot of different things and multitask and task switch and do a bunch of stuff at once. And you can do simple things, a lot of simple things at once, but not complex things. So, as much as possible, if you can preserve your cognitive load by offloading other things, other decisions. So, it's never a decision of who's going to do the taxes. I just do it. That way we don't have to, go through that each time that comes up. The other thing that we do is we put everything on our calendar. We live and die by our shared Google Calendar. That way, I don't schedule something the same time as he has something, or the kids have something, or, we've got a dinner or something like that back when dinners used to happen pre-COVID. And you can put a lot of things that are recurring. So I put on our calendar each week, whether it's trash or recycling day, or when I need to change the air conditioning filters, or I put on even to recur every year all the birthdays for family members and friends, or a recurring every 6 months when I need to sit down and look at my goals and my big vision and values and kind of reassess my strategy. So if you put things on your calendar, that offloads them from your mind, and that
So
helps
you
preserve.
actually write on your calendar, think big thoughts. I mean, what
Yeah,
does
or
that
I'll
look like?
think
What is
big
the
thoughts.
entry?
So I think the entry is do 1, 5, and 10-year goal sheet. So I have a little sheet that I do every year where I look at what do I want to accomplish in the next 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years, and then what steps do I need to do to get there. And often the 5 and 10 years are very vague. Like I really don't have a great idea. I'm not like one of those people who's saying, "Oh, I want to be in this role in 5 years, and here's my 10-step plan." I kind of know what I want to accomplish in the next year, but I like to just dream about ideas and put things out there. So that's something I try to do every year.
Okay. And so you guys all just your kids put stuff on the calendar too, or how does
My
that work?
kids don't have access to the calendar quite yet, mostly because I'm worried they would mess it up. But they do
They
have
might
their
not
own.
quite
They
understand your
might just
system.
delete various things or meetings when they want me to be home. But at some point, yes, I'll give them access so they can add things.
Okay, no, that's an okay. And in terms of, you made a point. I'm looking at our notes here about, you know, rest and recreation. Like,
Mm.
what does that wind up looking like in a very busy life? How do you recharge?
Yeah, I try to think about what is really going to renew my mind and what is just mindless entertainment. And not to say that there's not a place for mindless entertainment or watching a movie or things like that. But at some point, there's a line where you go from this is really renewing my mind and is going to make me feel more energized later to now it's 3 a.m. and I'm pressing next episode and I know I'm going to feel worse tomorrow. Because sometimes if we get into that habit of just turning on the entertainment or cracking open our beer and vegging out on the couch, that often doesn't actually make us feel more rested or more renewed. Instead, at the end of the day, we feel like, oh no, now I didn't do this other thing that I was supposed to do, and now I feel worse. So, figuring out what is renewing for me, going to the gym or exercising, certainly getting enough sleep is important, but also connecting with friends is really important. I would so much rather have a 20-minute conversation with a friend than watch a movie for 2 hours. So that will be a much more renewing thing for my own mind because when you've been doing deep work or difficult work or handling these emotions of feeling bored, insecure, self doubt, those are very draining to feel. Those are very draining to manage your mind around. And so you need to find a way to kind of renew your mind and reset for the next day.
Very cool. So I wonder if you could talk us through a little bit about your own schedule, like when you're doing different things, like patient care and your office work, your student-facing work, your family stuff. Just talk like through a day-to-day kind of schedule.
So the interesting thing about being an ER doctor is almost no day is the same because the shifts are all different. So how I manage my calendar is I have some big things that can't be moved. So my shifts are 8 hours long and they can be overnight, weekends, holidays, evenings, mornings, anytime. So those I have to set in. And if I have an overnight shift, then I put on my calendar sleep for 8 hours the next day. Otherwise, I'll accidentally schedule meetings during that time and won't put down time to sleep. So I block off those big things. And then there's some standing meetings that I either lead or that I'm part of that are on my calendar and I can't move those. Other things, I think about what time of day do I work best to do my deep work. And I tend to do my deep work best in the kind of 9 a.m. to noon time, and then maybe in the afternoon too. So I'll put big chunks of time there to do the big projects, whether that's creating a lecture, writing an article, doing my big strategic thinking, or whatever it may be. So I'll set those times aside and try to make them at least an hour long. And then in between those, I'll have breaks of 10 to 20 minutes where I'll do the shallow work of emails, scheduling, all those sorts of things. And then I'll schedule my student meetings typically for the end of the day from 3 to 5 p.m. Partly because I love meeting with people, with the students, but I'm also very much an introvert. So after several hours of back-to-back meetings, I'm exhausted. So if I do those in the morning, then I just am so tired for the rest of the day. So in thinking about the strategy, back to the general deploying their troops, I know that this type of work, the meetings one-on-one, is going to be just tiring for me because of my introvert nature. So I'm going to put those at the end of the day so that then I go home after that. Whereas the deep strategic work, I'm going to put at the start of the day because that's when I focus better.
Okay. And so the workday ends maybe a little after 5 after you've done this.
Typically ends at 5 and then, or 5:30, 6, and then I'll come home, help get the kids dinner, play with the kids. They go to bed at 7:30 and then I do more work. So typically, I know, and you've written about this, about the second shift and the mosaic, and it definitely feels like that. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle or a Tetris puzzle where all the pieces you're trying to fit together, but then all the pieces often are moving or change shape and things like that. But typically we'll get the kids to bed and then I'll do some more work from 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. or whatever it may be. Right now I'm also doing an MBA. So that's what I've been doing in the evenings a lot is my MBA homework and reading. But other times I'll just do writing or things like that.
Because why not?
Why not?
Why not? It's on the 5-year plan. Yeah, exactly. So we always end our episodes with a love of the week, something that we're really enjoying right now. I'm going to say that sledding is my love of the week. So we're recording this in mid-December where we just got a lot of snow in the Northeast here and mid-Atlantic region. And my family bought a new house recently. We haven't moved there yet, but it has a hill in the front yard.
Nice.
So we took our sleds over there yesterday and zoomed on down. It was fun. I zoomed too. I really enjoyed that part. So that's my love of the week. What are you really enjoying right now?
Well, my love of the week, to be honest, Laura, yesterday I may have teared up a little bit with tears of joy when I got the first dose of the COVID vaccine. This has just felt like such a light that there is finally light. There's still a long tunnel, but there's a little pinprick of light out there that just feels so good. So that was my love of the week this week.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome one. Sarah just posted pictures on her blog of her getting her vaccine as well, and her husband did, I think, on Wednesday this week. So yeah, lots of people getting it. Hopefully, more to come very soon.
Yes.
Even by the time this airs in mid-January, but we can really celebrate that is happening. That can be our love of the year.
Yes, once everybody's vaccinated and we can all, hug each other and feel more human and connected.
Honestly, I think I may be wearing a mask in like some public places. Not so much about COVID, but I'm like, I really like not getting colds.
Yeah,
I have not gotten a cold in a long time, and my kids haven't either. And who knew?
I mean, the money that we've saved on Kleenex alone is probably several $100s because nobody's had a cold. It's been phenomenal.
Had a cold. Like nobody's thrown up. I mean, knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood like crazy right now. But like that hasn't happened all year. We are and no colds. I might wear a mask on an airplane for like the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will. I think especially working in the hospital, we might too, just to avoid those kinds of things.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll go see people again. Like, yes, I'll
Right.
hug people again, but wearing a mask. Exactly. All right. Well, Christina, thanks so much for doing this. And remind our listeners where they can go find you. You said the address earlier, but let's hear it again.
Yes. You can go to timeforyourlife.org
Is that all
and
spelled out? Time for
for
your
your life. Yep. All
life.org.
the words spelled out. And you can go there and find my blog posts where I've been writing about different aspects of time management and mind management, managing your own mind, not other people's minds. And you can find more information about my workshop in January and February.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Christina, for coming on.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Well, that was great. We're back with our question and answer section. This question came from Instagram. Tips on job searching and switching while pregnant. We actually get versions of this question a fair amount because obviously a lot of our listeners are in the, baby having stages of their lives. And, moving around between jobs is one way that people do also advance their careers early in the career growth years. That's actually a way that many people are able to take their salaries, take their responsibilities up a significant notch. And so, these things may overlap, that pregnancy and seeking out new opportunities can happen at the same time. So, Sarah, you have actually started a new job while pregnant, right?
Yes, I have. In fact, my first interview that I had for my job, I was pregnant with Annabelle. And when I set foot to start working in August of 2013, I had found out like the month prior that I was pregnant with Cameron. So, yep, I have done it and it worked out completely fine. To be honest, the maternity leave always seems really long when you think about it, but it's really, really like I want to emphasize like 12 weeks goes by so fast and then the job is still there for you to do. And usually people can cobble together enough solutions so that your absence for 12 weeks doesn't matter so much. And in fact, sometimes when you're in a new position, it matters even less because like you haven't ramped up your practice yet or whatever.
You don't have any responsibilities yet, right? You're just, you've just started.
Exactly. Like no one assumes that you're going to be, carrying the weight of a fully, hit the ground running employee on day one anyway. So there you go. So yes, from my personal experience, it was fine. I've now still been at that same organization for the last 7.5 years now. And I don't think anyone remembers that. Although I remember being like horrified that I would had to tell my boss basically like, so yeah, that bump there is a baby. So yeah.
Well, how did you have that conversation? Did you literally do that? Like, let's sit down and talk.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think I waited, I was like, I'm going to work for a week because I don't want it to be like the first day.
First conversation we have.
And then literally 1 weekend, I was like, doctor, whatever, can I speak with you? And, we were more formal back then because I didn't know her as well. Although I have a wonderful senior leader and she's the same one. And so it's not surprising that it was fine. And I was like, so, I'm pregnant. And she was like, well, we assumed that was going to happen one day or another. You only had one kid. And I was like, well, yeah, you're right.
The odds were good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I might have taken a 10-week maternity leave then because some of it was unpaid, or 11 weeks. It wasn't quite 12, but it was very close to 12. And it was fine. It was just fine. I mean, I came back. I pumped, I ramped everything up, and now it's just kind of a memory. And I did look up, are people allowed to ask you if you're pregnant while you're interviewing for a job? It gets a little bit sticky because you're not allowed to discriminate against somebody for being pregnant. So if you ask somebody if they are pregnant or planning to get pregnant, the interviewer is taking a legal risk because you could then not get the job and then sue them and say, it's because you asked if I was pregnant and then you discriminated against me. And then they'd have to prove that they didn't pick you for some other reason and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, that should empower you a little bit to know that you don't necessarily have to answer that question. And actually, this was a Forbes article that came up when I searched for this, and they mentioned you can say something like, I think what you want to know is whether I'll be around for the December rush. The answer for that is yes. Or I think you're asking whether I'm committed to the job. The answer to that question is yes. Let me tell you about a time at my current job where something came up and I was able to get help and get through it or whatever, et cetera.
You can switch the question to address what you think is their concerns.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's interviewing while visibly pregnant is going to be hard. And people can, even if you can't legally discriminate, there's a million reasons somebody might not get a job. So it's also very hard to prove that you didn't get a job because of pregnancy discrimination. So I understand that this is going to be a challenging thing to do. But, hopefully you have been always building up career capital, that you're coming into an interview situation, not just like, I've never heard of this company before, they don't know me at all, like it's random. Like, hopefully this is coming in a very warm situation. Like, even they've invited you to come in, like, 4 people at the company who can all vouch for you, in which case they're like, oh, this is great. We're going to get her. She's going to take 12 weeks and then she's going to come back and be, the best contributor ever. So it's just saying that, like, in general in life, you want to be in a more powerful situation in these. And if you are, you have a different experience than if you don't. And I recognize that that can be very difficult sort of early on in the career, but that's one of the reasons that, it is so good to be building up your career capital, to be constantly networking, to be, going to conferences and meeting people at different organizations, to have, a half dozen people who have been like, hey, if you're ever thinking of switching jobs, call me first. Like, oh my goodness, if you have that, then probably your bump isn't going to matter quite as much. So that's hopefully the place that you can get yourself to be.
Love it.
All right. Well, this has been Best of Both Worlds. We've been, talking about all sorts of wonderful things with this episode. We're recording ahead of time. I don't even know what we've been talking about in this episode. But we'll be back next week with more on making work and life fit together.
Thanks for listening. You can find me, Sarah, at theshoebox.com or at @the_shoebox on Instagram.
And you can find me, Laura, at lauravanderkam.com. This has been the Best of Both Worlds podcast. Please join us next time for more on making work and life work together.